Hi, everyone, and thanks so much to the Overseas Press Club for hosting this conversation tonight and for its long dedication to supporting international journalism through press freedom and safety efforts, as well as through the more fun part, which are the annual OPC Awards. So, Karla, you received one of those, the Madeline Dane Ross Award, which honors the best reporting on the human condition. And it's a category where we get to consider the stories whose subjects haunt us, move us, change our thinking, change government policies. But at the core, there's this compelling human story. And that's exactly why I and some of the other jurors found your work so extraordinary. So I hope we can get into all the things that have changed since those stories, especially the pandemic. But I thought we could start by going back to the heart of that series, which was the women themselves. Karla, you introduced us to Beatriz fighting for her life in an ER after a botched home abortion. Patricia, a small town mayor in Bolivia who was beaten, her head shaved, and her body doused in paint by a right wing mob. Evelyn and other women imprisoned in El Salvador after pregnancy or childbirth complications. And so, I mean, the theme running through these stories is the continued and difficult struggle for women's rights across the region. And I wondered if you could just start by telling us a little bit about that fight and, what does it look like regionally? Are there trends to watch and who's winning? Just start with an easy one, right?
Well, it's just there are so many challenges that women in the region face just across the board. I mean, the most obvious one is a rise in femicides, which we've already seen really big numbers. So femicides are, in case anybody in the audience doesn't know, it's the killing of women because they're women, because of their condition of women. It's not just a normal homicide, it's not something random, it's something planned because they, of their gender, and there's a hate element there. And across the region, there are really terrifying numbers of women who are killed because they're women. A lot of these numbers, generally, they are from people they know and they are from partners. And what we've seen is a very worrisome trend as women have become empowered, even though I don't really like that word because it's so general, but as this movement to garner more rights and to get more, more access to healthcare, more access to abortion, equal pay. As this movement has gotten stronger, so has pushback from men. And so we've seen growing numbers of abuse and growing numbers of femicides. Even as women take more space in politics, I mean, just you mentioned the mayor in Bolivia. That's the price that women are paying. She.
Can you tell us a little bit about her?
So in Bolivia, at the end of 2019, there was, I'm just going to say attempted coup, so that we, don't spend 10 minutes defining what it is, although it was a very difficult, complex political situation. She belonged to the party of the outgoing president, the president that was removed from power. And she was taken by an angry mob outside of the government offices in her town of Vinto in Bolivia. She was beaten by the crowd, mostly men. She was forced to take her shoes off, walk over shards of glass. She was doused with paint and gasoline. Her hair was cut. There was a moment that didn't really get a lot of space in stories, which I found surprising because it was a very brief moment, but so her attack was live streamed. And at one point, one of the men that was holding her down grabbed her breast. So there, this was unquestionably, there was an element of gender to this. And so you see women fighting for their rights, and there's no better example than her. There are thousands of great examples, but hers is so telling. You fight to make space for women in politics in Latin America, and that's the price you pay.
I saw those the photos that went with your story on that, and they're shocking. I mean, a woman doused in paint, her hair shorn. She's obviously just been through the ringer with this mob. And I mean, what was the effect? Are politics so divided? I mean, did that treatment of her have a galvanizing effect on women, or was it really sort of partisan? What kind of effect is an image like that? Does that shock, basically?
it shocked the whole nation, but it's so partisan that many people on the other side of the political spectrum said that she staged it. So, it's also, this fight is taking place at a time in a continent that is just so politically polarized that it feels like you take 3 steps forward, but it's actually just 1 step, and you take 2 steps backward right away.
In telling these big stories, I think even the citation for your award mentioned that one of the things we loved about it was the fact that you're telling these really incredibly complex and sometimes harrowing stories through really ordinary women. How'd you go about finding them?
It varied. I think maybe one of my favorite stories of that series was a woman who lives, I think she's the loneliest woman on the planet. She lives up on a hill in a mansion outside of Caracas in Venezuela. Her family was very, very wealthy, and they bought this ranch. Just, you can't see the end of it. It's so sprawling, from Rockefeller. And just to make a long story short, they lost control of the ranch after Chavez came into power because of socialist policies. And so her family decided that because she was unmarried and didn't have a lot to lose, she was living in Miami, she should go live in the mansion. And they thought it was just going to be a couple weeks, maybe a month, until the legal issues were sorted out. And it's been over 15 years. And that I found because I kept going back to Venezuela, and everybody talked about this golden age when there was just so much money that everybody had a Mont Blanc pen. And I was like, it's so hard to imagine. I want to see what it was really like. And I went on the New York Times archives, and then I found out that Rockefeller had a ranch there, which was very surprising. And then I just Googled, endlessly, like Rockefeller Ranch, and found, I think it was like a blog post from 10 years ago, someone who went to visit her, and then I contacted her. So it's always it's either very random, or it's something that's, like the mayor in Bolivia, that's, worldwide news, and my editor and I want to, go a step further and figure out, who's the person behind the story.